Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about the film Deadpool. Deadpool, the character, is a wisecracking, self-aware, fourth wall-breaking, crazy, frenetic, insane character. He's funny, he's disturbing, he's always making pop culture references and jokes, and he's nothing like any of the big screen superhero movies that we've seen before. Now, Deadpool the movie, however, is exactly pretty much like a big screen superhero movie we've seen before. In fact, we've seen it many, many times. I kind of wish the Deadpool movie was like the Deadpool character more, but it's not. It kind of dresses it up a little bit. It mixes it around structurally wise by having it cut in between when he's trying to find the supervillain who made him ugly, forcing him to wear a mask and a costume, and giving him healing powers and various other abilities with a fairly typical origin story that we're all used to. It's kind of a different kind of superhero movie, but not really. It's par for the course for 20th Century Fox and their X-Men Marvel Universe thing, where they all feel kind of standard in terms of sticking with the superhero genre. The second Wolverine movie and this almost feel like very standard in terms of their structure. This doesn't feel like a completely new twist on the superhero genre or the answer to superhero fatigue. It almost kind of makes me think there isn't really superhero fatigue, in that they can dress up a normal kind of superhero movie and not have it mixed with a different genre or even really a different take on it. They can basically just put in a wisecracking superhero who's offensive and different and violent, and everyone will still come out to it and act like it's different when in fact it really just isn't. Deadpool is trying to find the doctor who put him through evil experiments as Wade Wilson, who before has a beautiful girlfriend and everything's starting to go right, even though he had a military past which he suddenly started to use for good rather than evil. But unfortunately, it turns out he has terminal cancer in his lungs, stomach, brain, all over, and he is approached by what he thinks is a government organization that will help him hopefully cure his cancer and give him abilities. So of course he signs up, which traditionally in the comics was, I think he was part of the Weapon X program, but in this they make it something else, I guess, although that would have been interesting, kind of funny if he like walked by Wolverine getting out or something. I thought they were going to do like a cool Hugh Jackman cameo on that, but to my understanding it's not the Weapon X program for whatever reason, or maybe they changed that in the comics and he's not Weapon X anymore, but I remember Deadpool as the Weapon X thing, so whatever. He is put in there and experimented on and eventually becomes very ugly because of this weird experiment the doctor does on him, and he tries to get out and see his girlfriend, who he kind of just disappeared because he was afraid he was just going to die and didn't want to put her through that. But then he comes back and realizes most people think he's horrible and hideous, and he doesn't want to confront the woman he used to love and have her reject him, so he decides to go after the doctor who can possibly hopefully fix him and make him beautiful Ryan Reynolds again so that he can be reunited with his love once again. The superhero genre is interesting where it is now, because we're definitely, this year is probably going to be the year people are going to get absolutely sick of superhero movies, since this is the first of 7 superhero movies we're getting. Deadpool kind of reminds me of something like an old school western, like how there are all these rip-offs of the John Ford movie Stagecoach, and at a certain point they would just have various different takes on Stagecoach, and this is kind of that, but it's not different and changing the genre, and most westerns don't change the genre, they kind of just adhere to it, and Deadpool very much does that. It almost reminds me of something like Family Guy or anything that has a lot of offensive jokes in it, but basically the structure of it is very kind of normal and mainstream and isn't very challenging at all. And I don't think Deadpool ever meant to be challenging, and maybe it's because of all the fourth wall breaking and all the wisecracks and how they are trying to act like this is like a completely new superhero movie, and especially the promise at the beginning where it's a really funny opening title sequence that had a lot of life to it that I really wasn't expecting and made me laugh. In fact, I think I missed a couple of jokes in the opening because you really expected to just say produced by whomever, and they had a different twist on it, which I thought was very funny, and it definitely has a lot of great humor in it. It's hard not to laugh at some points during this movie. They shoot out so many jokes, it's kind of rapid fire. It still feels like it's soft selling, it's like lowballing in terms of what it's doing with the plot. And especially when you look at what Marvel Studios does, this is not a Marvel Studios movie. It's a movie based on a Marvel comic book, which is different from a Marvel Studios movie. But for a movie that is based on a Marvel comic book that is not a Marvel Studios movie, it's a lot more fun and looser than I've ever seen before. This is the most Marvel Studios-like movie that is based on a Marvel comic book produced by a non-Marvel Studios studio, because it's freewheeling, because it's different, or at least trying to be different, trying to be something new. That's something Marvel Studios has always been good at. You get Captain America Winter Soldier, and it's infused with the political thrillers of the 70s and the 90s. You get Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's a space opera. Ant-Man was supposed to be a heist movie. I didn't really think it was, but at least they tried. Deadpool is the first attempt really at 20th Century Fox to do anything different with the X-Men movies. The Wolverine films really felt very kind of standard superhero films. This is as kind of liberal as they've ever gotten with that property, which I still find interesting. It's interesting to think that now these studios are going like, okay, but what can we do that's different to get audiences to still come out to these? This is kind of something people like a little bit more, is like superhero with a twist. Now, the twist is really the character, not the movie. The movie doesn't have any twists. This is this guy's first feature film, and although he has interesting things special effects wise and having an interesting character, this isn't a different movie, which I think is my biggest complaint while watching it. Is I was like, oh man, I feel like I've seen this like a lot of times before, but Deadpool's certainly making this fun and funny. And the idea of Deadpool is very much a film that a bunch of 13-year-olds are going to watch at a sleepover incessantly. I think the people who will love this movie the most will not get to see it the weekend it comes out. They'll get to see it 6 months later when it's on Netflix, or when they buy the Blu-ray, or maybe they got to see it and their dad's kind of cool or something. There's nothing in this that I don't think a 13-year-old couldn't see anyway, but it's still like offensive and feels naughty enough that they'll feel like it's this big like adult thing that they're getting to experience. It's really an R-rated movie whose jokes are primed and ready for middle school kids. It's fairly good at being juvenile. Most of the time, I think you would not see most critics or most people who are cinephiles really applauding a movie for being juvenile, but Deadpool's like really good at it. Even though it's kind of like a normal superhero movie, it was still a lot of fun. So I think most people and most audiences would really enjoy it. They'll probably notice how normal it is, but almost be comforted with it and laugh along and be fine with it. Ryan Reynolds, I've always thought this is, even in X-Men Origins Wolverine and the parts where he actually could talk and it was a complete travesty of a movie, which is like 5 minutes, if that. But I always thought he was the perfect Deadpool, and it's kind of the role he was born to play. Even in Green Lantern, as much as a travesty as that was, he's had a lot of bad luck with superhero movies. As bad as Green Lantern was, he always tried. He always put as much effort as he could in those movies, and all that effort is now brought to Deadpool, and it really works for him. He works so well in this film, and particularly he's a great comedic lead. He can play that Bugs Bunny or Freakazoid type of character better than probably any big movie star can right now. And the fact that he really believes in this character and has tried to get this movie made for like almost a decade or something really comes through in the performance. He's probably the best person in it. He definitely steals the show. His performance is so effortless that you might think he's not doing as much as he's really doing, but it's hard for any actor to be on that much. When people talk to Jack Nicholson about playing the Joker, particularly when Heath Ledger was doing it, he goes, you know, it takes a lot of stamina to be on that much all the time, and to really do that throughout a whole movie and make this movie work as well. This movie would not work as well without Ryan Reynolds. It really shows how good of an actor he can be, and especially when he's cast in a role that he's absolutely perfect for. A lot of the people in this film are kind of just playing various tropes that they're supposed to play, particularly the villain and Gina Carano. TJ Miller is also really hilarious. Probably the funniest parts of the movie is when TJ Miller is on screen. He does a much better comedic sidekick than he'd done in like the Transformers movie. And I liked Brianna Heidebrand, who played Negasonic Teenage Warhead, which was probably the only character who was fully annoyed with Deadpool but still got him. She didn't really get to talk a lot, but I thought it was kind of a cool character, as well as his girlfriend played by Marina Baccarin. Nobody's really as fantastic as Ryan Reynolds, and it's kind of his film, really. A perfect starring vehicle the way a good superhero movie can be. The biggest complaint about Deadpool is you have this character who's very witty and very smart and is breaking the fourth wall. He even breaks the fourth wall and then breaks the fourth wall within that fourth wall break and then comments on it, but he doesn't comment on how cliched his own movie is. He's self-aware that he's in a movie, much like how Deadpool always knows that he's in a comic book, but he can never comment on like the actual writing, which I think is something that I don't think Deadpool even does in the comic. That seems to be a common complaint, but it does bring up like how come he's not noticing how cliched this is, and they almost can get away with cliched stuff that other comic book movies would have to dress up as like darkness and brooding or something like that, and Deadpool doesn't, because it's like soften the blow with how witty it is. Deadpool's one of those movies you're like, wow, how did this become a thing so quickly? How did everybody like this weird fourth wall breaking character that's very self-aware and knowing? That's kind of interesting, and it's kind of fascinating in that regard, but it's also like being fascinated by something that isn't really that fascinating when you look at it. It's fascinating on a pure character level. Most of the people who are seeing Deadpool have presumably are going to see all 7 of those superhero movies, and probably saw all the superhero movies last year and the year before and bought the Blu-rays and watched them incessantly, and that no one's really calling to mind how kind of weaker this movie is kind of surprising, especially like with the whole X-Men thing and having Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead. He makes a joke that like, oh, what can the studio only afford 2 X-Men, which I think is probably true. And Colossus is like this newer person playing Colossus, which actually I read the guy who played Colossus in Days of Future Past and X-Men 2 refused to come back as only a motion capture performance. So it wasn't like they didn't want him back. They actually asked him and he wouldn't come back. They even kind of make jokes at how convoluted the X-Men continuity is, and where this even fits in the X-Men continuity of the movies, at least, I have no fucking clue. And they don't give you any markers for it. I don't think they really care in terms of Deadpool. Deadpool seems to be his own little offshoot, but is within the universe if they need him to be, probably later or something. Best to leave it alone for now, and Fox can kind of pretend they know what they're doing later. If you're into superhero movies, I think this would be a little bit of a different twist. It's not an essential twist the way I think Marvel Studios has really always done it with their films. I'm not saying it as the Marvel Studios fanboy. They make plenty of films I don't love that much, but I think when you look at Deadpool and how genre it really is, it's disappointing in a way that, can we really still get away with this? Even Marvel and many studios realize they can't do origin stories anymore. In a way, Deadpool is kind of getting away with doing the thing that no other studio would actually do, which is do an origin story. It kind of gets away with a lot of things because it can break the fourth wall and make wisecracks and have a structure that really isn't that different, to be honest. They kind of cut it up, so you think it is, I guess. I don't think it is, but maybe someone does. And so it can kind of get away with being a little more cliched, which I didn't feel like it could, but I guess maybe people do feel like it can, and so they can sell it to you. It's an interesting movie to review because at first you're like, wow, so this is a big Hollywood movie, huh? This is like going to be number one. This is like what the movie everyone's talking about and things. It's just kind of such a strange movie, but that's the problem with it is strange that this is successful and big, and the character and all of that is strange, but the movie isn't. It's normal, it's easy to go down, it can be easily sold at Kmart and very consumable. It's not advancing the superhero genre as much as it probably thinks it is, and as controversial as it thinks it is, and as different as it thinks it is. It's presumption that it's doing something new, when really it's something we've all seen before with a minimal twist. And that's really boring from a genre that's been popular for a little bit and doesn't really know exactly where to twist it to keep that popularity going. I think I kind of want more from my superhero movies. It's at least a good movie, and I'm not going to act like it's horrible and I would hate to see it again. I probably wouldn't. I'm very kind of apathetic about it in the end, but I laughed during all of that apathy, so, you know, whatever, I guess. Really, this is a different crazy movie for the normal mainstream crowd, when even it knows and can't even acknowledge that it really isn't. So if you have seen Deadpool and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.